Hello and welcome to my talk on the American Bumble Bee, Bombus pensylvanicus. Here's a great image that Louise Woodrich posted to iNaturalist and is on Wikipedia. So thank you for this great image. And with that, let's get into some of its identification. So the American Bumblebee queen can be just over an inch in size, up to that. The workers tend to be more half to over 3/4 uh, the size of the queen. The males can be up to 21 millimeters, so they would be the size of a small queen at the most. And we'll be looking at the coloration. The males tend to be a little more colorful, and we'll see an image in a little bit. Bumblebees of North America classifies this, and others classify this as a long-cheeked bumblebee, and that cheek section is used in part of its identification along with its mid-leg, and the coloration can vary, but we're going to talk about coloration next. So this is a bumblebee that has short and even hair. The head and the face will always be black. The thorax, where the wings and the legs are attached, will have this band of yellow behind the head at the anterior portion, forward portion of the thorax. And although there's variation, a lot of times between the wings it's going to be black hairs, and behind the wings will be black hairs. But again, this can vary on males especially. As for the abdomen, if you'll recall, if you listen to some of my other talks, these T segments are for the tergites. That's that upper plate on the abdomen that is in segments. And T1 on American Bumblebee, almost always there will be a little yellow hairs in the middle of T1 or throughout T1. And T2 and T3, the second and third segments, will be yellow, as you can see in this illustration. After that, it's black hairs. So again, this can vary. Males will tend to be much more colorful, but at any rate, that gives you a rough idea. Again, go to Bumblebees of North America and you can see all the variations there, because hair color a lot of times is not completely diagnostic. As for the range, this is a combination of 3 different range maps, and there's some others out there. I'm not, this is roughly identifying the range of American Bumblebee. You will not see this in the Pacific Northwest. It does go up into some valleys in Oregon, but in the Pacific Northwest and in the Mountain West, you're not going to find this bumblebee. It will be in California. It will be in the desert Southwest, and we'll talk specifically about a couple, 3 or 4 surveys that were done in the next slide. But in Maine, where I live, it's just coming into southern Maine, barely. I looked over the 2017 survey. I could not find it in the Bumblebee Atlas from 2017, but we'll see if it shows up in later surveys. So in a study in Ohio, 2017-2018, with the title The Bumblebee Banquet, that's the first part of the title, researchers were looking at trying to follow bumblebees and what they were feeding on. And I'll talk more about that in a later slide when we look at the plants that are being used. But in this Ohio study, 2017-2018, they were able to find enough of 8 different species that they followed in that 2-year period, and American Bumblebee was the lowest density. They were able to follow, they had 31 observations of American Bumblebee, whereas with brown belted, I think it was over 6,000, and with common eastern, it was over 11,000 observations. So it's dwarfed by those 2 species. In Michigan, Michigan State University Extension, in their report on natural features inventory, talk about bumblebees, American bumblebee being observed. I think there were double digits in 2020, but single digits in 21 and 22, 2021 and 2022. And American bumblebee only showed up in the lower peninsula in 4 counties. 2 counties in the southeast corner of the state, and again in the lower peninsula on the west side, in 2 counties. So, and those we're talking now single digits, and really small numbers. So that was Michigan. I'm going to skip to Montana. Montana, I don't know the date on this, but Montana reports that they had American bumblebee in 2 southeast counties. There was also a report of one up in a northern county, but I couldn't get any detail on that numbers. But in the southeast corner, American bumblebee has been observed in Montana. And then I want to talk about Texas, because the Texas A&M Forest Service reported that working with several other universities in Texas, they began surveying in 2022, and in a preliminary report said that American bumblebee in the 36 counties that they're looking at, in towns in 36 counties in East Texas, that American bumblebee population seems to be doing quite well, that it's fine. So we're going to talk about the decline in the next slide, but it appears that in the northern states there is a decline. At least in East Texas, we know that the population seems to be doing just fine. So what about the decline? Well, on a web page of Fish and Wildlife Service, they quote a 2014 report from the International Union of Conservation in Nature, and I quote, that there is an 89% reduction in the abundance, and they're talking about American bumblebee, relative to other bees that share their habitat, end quote. And they say, like other authors have said, that this is most pronounced in the northern extent of the range of American bumblebee. They also add that this could be due to pesticides, habitat loss, habitat degradation, urban development, climate change, as well as disease. So anyway, I don't know that anybody has 100% idea of why there's such a decline in American bumblebee, but hopefully we'll find that in the southern states it's doing much better. So where can it be found? Well, this is a prairie grassland species, and you'll see why in a second, but open farmland and fields as well. It's, according to a Bumblebee Watch web page, it's active between February and December. Of course, this is going to depend on the habitat and the climate. And why grasslands? Because this is a surface nester in long grass. Is occasionally found below ground, according to the Montana Field Guide. And like other surface nesters, this tends to be more aggressive bumblebee, because it's trying to protect its above ground nest in the grass. Again, uncommon and in decline in the north. So what about the males? Now here's a great picture from Ms. Morehouse that is on Wikipedia, and this was found in Illinois in 2020. And you can see how much more colorful the males are. But males will, like a couple of others, northern amber is one, for example, they will congregate outside the nest entrance of another colony in search of a mate. So that's their approach. Other bee species will perch and chase. The males will perch and chase to find a female to mate with, and others will run circuits looking for females. But in this case, they congregate outside waiting for the gynes, G-Y-N-E-S, those are the future queens, the females to come out, and they will attempt to mate with them. So a long list of plants. This is not complete. This is borrowed from two different sources. An article that the Forest Service posted by Rourke, and also from Bumblebees of North America. And you can see everything from thistle to clover is on here, and many species that you're probably familiar with. And I want to go back to that Ohio study by Lannerman and colleagues from 2017-2018 study in Ohio. And if you look at my talk on brown-belted bumblebee, you'll see that they used a lot of species. I mean, some common eastern was using over 90 species, brown-belted was using over 70 species. This species of bumblebee, the American bumblebee, was in much smaller numbers, but they used up to 12 species in this report from Ohio. So at any rate, good information. You can Google this. If you go in and Google bumblebee banquet, you'll find this article and you can read it for yourself. So here are some of my references. The only one that I've quoted on here that isn't here is the Fish and Wildlife Service, that if you Googled American Bumblebee, you might find that. But the Montana Field Guide, the Bumblebee Watch, and the only thing you can't Google that's on this list is Bumblebees of North America. That's the book, the reference book. Excellent guide. If you don't have a copy, I recommend it. The other two here, Bumblebees of Eastern United States, Bumblebees of Western United States, some of the same authors as the Bumblebees of North America. Those authors are Williams, Thorpe, Richardson, and Cola, have worked on these PDF files, which are guides to those species, east and west. American Bumblebee will appear in both of those. The Latterman article, MSU extension, and the Rourke article are listed here. Again, the only one you can't Google is Bumblebees of North America. So with that, I'll thank you for your interest in American Bumblebee and this talk. And again, if you're interested, you can go back to the Bumblebee Banquet article is talked about extensively in my talk on Bombus griseocolus, the brown-belted bumblebee. Thanks for your interest. Take care.